I'm Aniello Piro. The Denver Broncos win their 10th game in a row, but I might get roasted by the fellas. Here we go.
I'm Cody Roark, and Bo Nix and the Broncos offense finally showcased a formula that could help them win in the playoffs.
I'm Sayre, Bedinger. The Patriots, they might be on a bye, but the Broncos handed them a big fat L in week 14.
Hey, I'm Nick Ferguson. Can we talk more about Marvin Mims and can we get him more offensive touches? I don't know.
All that and more on tonight's Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Let's get into it, fellas.
From the South Stands, it's the Broncos Squad. Everything Denver Broncos every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Mile High City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Gear up and squad up. The Broncos Squad Show starts now.
It is your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Hope everyone in Broncos country is doing well out there after the Denver Broncos win their 10th straight game with a 24-17 dub over the Las Vegas Raiders. Denver improving to 11-2 on the season, 5-2 on the road. The Raiders, we don't care about them. They're down and out for this season, but it was a good win for the Denver Broncos. Aniello Piro, Cody Roark, Sayre Bedinger, and Nick Ferguson here on the program this evening. And guys, tonight's episode of your Locked On Broncos Squad Show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, just visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Fellas, we kind of talked about the importance of this game in the sense of it being the last quote unquote, not a lock, but, the game that you expected the Broncos to win. Obviously a tough slate of games coming up to end the season for the Denver Broncos, but I got some thoughts on it. I'll let you guys go first and then I'll rebuttal with you guys a little bit. Cody, your initial thoughts on the dub.
Look, big win. You need to win these games. Every win from this point out in the schedule, as we talked about, earlier on the week in the other squad show, the schedule only gets tougher for the Broncos. They're going to have a tougher road in comparison to other people down the line. This was a much-needed win. Look, there's some tiebreaker implications that obviously came about in this game. If the Broncos and the Patriots finish with the same record by virtue of common opponent, the Broncos would be the number one seed if the season ended today or if they end up with the same record down the line. That's big when we talk about the Broncos looking to make a deep playoff push. They took care of business on the road. Look, the score may have been 24-17. This game wasn't close.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what the Broncos needed to do. You mentioned with the Patriots on their bye week, not an opportunity just to get another win in the win column, but also boost that common opponent record if it does come down to same record and playoff implications. So, Sayre, your thoughts on today's dub?
Yeah, they handed the Patriots an L, right? That's the biggest thing that could come from this game possible, right? Every single Patriots fan out there was rooting for the Raiders to pull off an upset in this game, and the Broncos didn't let that happen. They came out with a huge purpose on offense to start off this game. I think we talked about it all throughout the week. Everybody's been concerned about it. How do you get the running game going? The Broncos figured out a way to do exactly that from the very start of this game. So look, you hand the Patriots an L. How? You've got the common opponents edge, 6-0 against common opponents, whereas the Raiders beat the Patriots back in week 1. That's a huge deal right now that a win by the Raiders could actually propel the Broncos to the number one seed in the AFC. That's just the funny way that things work in the NFL sometimes.
That is fair. Nick, your thoughts on the win?
Well, the Broncos did exactly what they were supposed to do. They should have done this against the same team when we watched them on Thursday Night Football, but that game was tighter. But here's when I look at this game, here's what's crazy about it. The last time we saw these two teams face off on Thursday Night Football, 10-7 Broncos victory. The Raiders scored 7 more points, and the Broncos scored 8 more points than they scored the last time they met the team because we can't count the Marvin Mims punt return. We can't really do that. Well, you know what? You can count it, but in the grand scheme of things, let's think about how many more points this offense actually scored, and it's only 8 points. Remember what Sean Payton told us early in the week that, hey, the game plan on Thursday night against these same Las Vegas Raiders wasn't that great because he didn't do a great job. So you can only muster 8 more points than the first time that you met him, and the defense rests.
Yes, excellent point. No, look, here's what I'll say. Good win for the Broncos, right? I think they took care of business.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously Marvin Mims, that was an electric punt return. We'll dive into RJ Harvey. Let's kind of save some offensive thoughts on RJ for a little bit later on in the program, just because I think that warrants its own, long form kind of discussion. Because Nick, they finally established the run. And I think this is as close as we've seen to a breakout game from RJ Harvey. So we'll definitely hit on that. But I think big picture, they checked the boxes, right? I think the defense did what they were supposed to do. I mean, they are so darn tough in the red zone. And I understand Geno Smith got hurt. Not that he was playing that well. Kenny Pickett, not much better. So, 2 thumbs up for the Broncos defense. And I think the Broncos offense was solid. I was happy with the establishment of the run. I thought Bo Nix was nice. Cool little scripted run play there for the first touchdown. But Cody, I don't come away from this game being like, I saw this, I saw that makes me think anything different about the Broncos. I think they did exactly what they were supposed to do today.
Once again, winning is winning. But I'll say I felt the opposite of this. Like, I didn't feel as great about the defense. Look, they came up big at some big moments, including a goal line stand. But I felt like the offense was significantly better than the defense on this afternoon, whereas the defense allowed a few more bigger plays than I think that we would have liked them to see. They buckled down on third down, but first down, second down, they allowed some big plays through the air. They allowed a fourth down conversion that was pretty big. And look, ultimately, the Raiders score some garbage time points, which at the end of the day,
Cover
is
the
like,
spread.
yeah, but you know what, Vegas, don't even get me
Just
started on that. But I felt like
the
offense was significantly better. They dominated the time of possession here, 39 minutes and 3 seconds compared to 20 minutes. That, to me, says everything I need to know. That's what the Broncos formula is. Now, if the defense can find a way to eliminate some of those explosives, this is the formula for the Broncos winning a championship. Strong run game, dominate the time of possession, efficient quarterback play from Bo Nix, and then the defense can get off the field and create takeaways, which they didn't create takeaways necessarily in this game, but they got some stops when they needed to.
No, 100%. And, Bo, no passing touchdowns today, but he was solid. I mean, more than solid. 31 for 38, 212 passing yards. Again, no interceptions to no touchdowns. So you like that. He did have the rushing touchdown, but no passing touchdowns today from Bo. And look, it's a Pete Carroll-led Raiders team. I understand, they have, 2 wins this season. It hasn't exactly gone according to plan for Las Vegas, but they did put up a fight in this game. And not that it's a surprise to anybody, but you guys saw the panorama shots, and I saw some stuff on social media. I mean, that was essentially a Broncos home game today, Sayre. I mean, that thing was decked out in orange and blue.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Broncos country has always traveled well to division rivals. We used to joke about how the Chargers game was always a kind of a home game because the fans traveled so well, especially being in Vegas. That, just a quick flight there from Denver to get there. The fans are going to show out, maybe even a quick drive for some people. But look, I want to talk about the offense in this game because I don't know. I want to know what you guys think that the offense could have done better from a scheme standpoint. I think really the issue for me is dropped passes. I mean, you talked about 31 of 38, 4 of those, 7 that were dropped or that were, incomplete passes were drops. 2 in the first half by Cortland Sutton, 2 by Troy Franklin. And then I think you can argue the Pat Bryant Hail Mary was a drop almost. I mean, Bo Nix put the ball on everybody in the first half, probably should have batted 1,000 in the first half. So I'm wondering, when it comes to, I feel like the punt return was more of a ball don't lie more than it was like, hey, let's make the offense look better on the final score, because the offense dominated in this game. Everybody on this panel was saying, hey, the team needs to figure out a way to run the ball now that J.K. Dobbins is out. You didn't acquire anybody to help the running game. Obviously, RJ Harvey's the guy. He's got to figure it out. They figured it out. 152 rushing yards in this game. Literally everybody was getting involved in the rushing attack, and Bo Nix played one of the best games that he's played all year in terms of just overall accuracy with the football. So my question to you guys is like, how could it have been more impressive to you? Because ultimately I get it. Like, they didn't put 40, what was it you called, Nick, 45-10 earlier this week, or last week was the score prediction. I wanted that as much as anybody, but the elongated drives, the success on third downs, like all that stuff to me is way more important than, scoring 45 in a game like this.
See, I feel a little different to that. And I know some members in Broncos country may feel the same way, or they may have different opinions. But here's what I'm talking about. This is a team that we know it's not a powerhouse like maybe we can still say the Green Bay Packers are, basically with them beating the Chicago Bears and the Broncos are going to have to face them next week, or even the New England Patriots who were idle this week. For me, what you're looking for is growth every single week. And last week when we sat here and we talked about the game against Washington, both sides of the ball were really pressed, and they really had to play their best. And luckily, Nick Bonito didn't go get a manicure last week, or the Broncos lose that game. But what I wanted to see against a team that I think we all can agree that the Raiders are an inferior team to the Denver Broncos. But for the second matchup, Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator for the Raiders, kind of still held Sean Payton in the offense in check. Like I said earlier, it's only an 8-point difference from the first game to this game. I wanted to see a little more from the offense against an inferior team to tell me, you know what? Against this team, you're going to drag them, because when you face some of these other teams that are coming up, you still have the Chargers, you have Green Bay, you have Jacksonville, who also won, you have Kansas City on Christmas Day. I want to go into that game a little more confidence in this offense that they can perform better against better defensive units. And yes, the Broncos got the dub. Maybe I'm nitpicking, right? But I didn't see that.
Cody, I'll let you rebuttal with that because I've got some thoughts as well.
No, look, I think ideally we want to see them put up, 30 plus points. I think for them to do what they did, and more importantly, and I think maybe the score was even 24 points because they had 3 drives, 2 of them that took 9 minutes, 20 seconds off the clock, a third one that took 10 minutes and 19 seconds off the clock. That right there, they dominated TOP well over half the game, 39 minutes to be exact in this game. And ultimately they were efficient when they got down into scoring ranges. Like, they came away with points. Now I think ideally, maybe the Hail Mary situation, maybe you want to kick a field goal there, right? But I like the chance of taking a shot at a Hail Mary. You have nothing to lose in that situation. But Denver on third down, 7 of 12. They're over 150 yards rushing. Like, for me, I look at that and it's like, all right, that to me is what we wanted to see this team do. We wanted to see them be more efficient on the offensive side of the ball. We wanted to see, and I know we're going to talk about him here in a little bit, we're going to see RJ Harvey. Can he run in between the tackles effectively? This was a game where I felt like we saw him staying patient, staying inside, and man, he made some guys miss, even in contact, running through contact. He was big. I just thought Denver got contributions from everybody. This was like an Oprah game where everybody was catching a pass. Bo Nix threw a completed pass to 11 different receivers in this game. They moved the chains. They stayed afloat, controlled the time of possession. I couldn't have been more happy with the offensive performance. Now, if they would have came away with 37 points, we're like, great. We love that. But I think in the context of TOP, I understand why it was 24 points. And of course, I think when you look at it being a 7-point win, garbage time points once again by the Raiders there. I think the Broncos defense played a little soft at the end, but that's really my whole spiel on it. I thought this was a complete win here for Denver.
Another 1-possession win to put the feather in the cap there for the Denver Broncos. No, I hear you, though, and I agree with you with the receptions today. I mean, Courtland Sutton led the way with 6 for 62. Pat Bryant had 4. Lil Jordan Humphrey with 3. Yeah. RJ Harvey had 6 catches. I mean, Troutman, Adam Prentice, Troy Franklin, Jaleel McLaughlin, Evan Ingram, right? The list goes on and on and on of guys that caught passes today from Bo Nix. So, look, I like what I saw today, right? But I think the big thing for me is, like, if I was going to come away from this game feeling, talking playoffs, and I understand where they're at with the 1 seed, but like Super Bowl expectations, it would have taken that kind of game score that Nick Ferguson threw out there as well for me to kind of feel that way. The way that I'm looking back at this is like they checked their boxes. They got the win. And I think to kind of rebuttal a little bit with what you guys were saying, and again, it's a good win for Denver, is the one team that we've talked about a couple of times on this show, at least I have, that I think is a legitimate Super Bowl contender is Los Angeles Rams. And the Rams found themselves in a similar situation with the Broncos today, right? I know they were coming off a loss, so it's a little bit different. But the Rams today go out and take on the Cardinals, and they beat them 45-17. And so I think that's what Nick was looking for a little bit. Again, I would like to see that as well. I think all of us would like to see that. But at the end of the day, I think it's a good win. Nothing to necessarily write home about. And I see some comments here on YouTube. Appreciate all of y'all about, Green Bay coming up here soon, Jacksonville as well. We're going to learn a lot about this Denver Broncos team over this home stretch of games, guys. I'm excited for it. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is big. The Broncos have been good at home. This is a big matchup that's obviously going to be coming up against the Packers. They have a ton of wide receivers, and obviously they have Micah Parsons on the other side. So on paper, you're looking at this game, it's like, all right, hey, this is big. And look, it's a non-conference game too, so it doesn't necessarily impact Denver negatively. I still think this is going to be the game of the week. I think we're going to see the Broncos rise to the occasion. Look, people have been saying that Denver, they've been playing down to the level of competition, but we've seen them play up to the competition as well. They match that level. They face some good defenses. And this one, I think, is probably going to be the toughest defense they face for the remainder of the season. Might throw a wild card in there with the Chargers, depending on obviously how they play. But this is going to be a big one. And look, I think you wanted to come into this game specifically, considering where the Jacksonville Jaguars are at right now. You got to match up against them. That's obviously going to be tough. You got to match up against the Chargers and the Chiefs, hopefully, because we're doing this as the Chiefs game's getting ready to start. Hopefully the Chiefs drop the game to the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football. And that Christmas Day matchup at that point, if that were to happen, wouldn't have as much meaning for Kansas City or Denver at that point. Like Denver at that point would probably have a chance to lock up the West, especially if the Chargers lose on Monday Night Football. So look, you're this late in the season. I thought this was a performance by the Broncos where in all three phases they played well. Some blemishes, I think, defensively. But is that because it's late in the game? You're playing a little bit more of a softer coverage. We'll obviously, I think, dive into that a little bit later on. But good win.
No, I'm with you guys 100%. I think it was a good win, and on to the next, right? So with that, let's hit our first break. When we come back, let's continue along with the conversation. Want to dive into RJ Harvey because I feel like we finally saw the Broncos unlock a little bit of a run game since J.K. Dobbins went down with the injury. So we'll talk about RJ's performance. Also, Jaleel McLaughlin getting some nice run out there here this afternoon. So we'll break that all down. We come back right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys, real quick, let me tell you about our friends over at Aura Frames because the holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every single time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles, guys. Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos would love an Aura picture frame. Endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app as well. That's a great feature. And you can add a personalized message right inside the frame so the gift feels thoughtful from the moment that it's opened. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tags, no wrapping needed. It's a huge win, guys. It's a holiday gift that actually gets used, not forgotten in a drawer. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's auraframes.com, AURA frames.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays and support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Be sure to check out our friends over at Aura Frames. Terms and conditions do apply. It's a great gift to give to a loved one or a family member. Be sure to check them out and let them know that Locked On Broncos sent you. All right, welcome on back into the program. Aniello Piro, Cody Roark, Nick Ferguson, and Sayre Bedinger breaking down the Denver Broncos 24-17 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. Lot to like from this game. I mean, I don't think there's like a ton that you can necessarily nitpick about outside of just maybe wanting to see a little bit more from the offense. But at the end of the day, it was a wall-to-wall victory for this Denver Broncos team. I know the game was tied up at one point, but you saw the Broncos, the scripted first drive, Bo Nix running it in for a touchdown. I mean, it felt like the Broncos really asserted themselves from the moment this game started, which I think was a breath of fresh air considering how the Washington game went and how some of these other football games have been played for the Denver Broncos. But I want to hone in on RJ Harvey here, guys, because, Sayre, you kind of mentioned it in your open there. They didn't go out and get another running back once J.K. Dobbins went down. It's been a bit of running back by committee between RJ Harvey, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Badie, and some spurts as well. But I thought I understand Harvey had two touchdowns in the game last week against Washington, but he looked like a true running back one out there. 17 carries for 75 yards and a rushing touchdown, along of 15, Sayre. I liked what I saw from RJ Harvey a lot today, and it gives me a lot more optimism moving forward. You're muted right now, by the way.
You hate to see it. The old
there
man
you go.
mistake. I did it. You hate to see it. Okay, RJ Harvey. I'm going to throw out a hot take right now. He is more dynamic. I'm not going to say can be, will be, would be. He's more dynamic as a featured back than what J.K. Dobbins brought to the table, 100%. And I know that he hasn't proven it yet as a every down runner, but he is much better in space. He is much better when he gets out into the open field. He's much better at making guys miss. I know that J.K. Dobbins did a great job. Don't mean to minimize it, but I'm bringing this hot take to the table for a reason here. That reason being, I feel like the potential of RJ Harvey to be unlocked as the season goes along. I think we saw in this game with 100 yards from scrimmage what Sean Payton was talking about when he said, hey, you know what? You haven't seen anything yet, right? We haven't seen anything yet when it comes to RJ Harvey. This was a glimpse. I mean, 23 touches in this game. It's exciting stuff. I mean, we wanted to see him take over and do all these sorts of things. He's out there making guys miss. He's grinding out tough yardage. He's moving the chains. The play that he made when he was hit by Jamal Adams. I mean, this guy has taken on the mantle of, we need you to be that dude back there as our running back one. And he has responded in a big way. This game was our perfect evidence of that.
No, I thought it was a great game from RJ Harvey as well. Nick, what do you think about his performance today?
Yeah, I love what I saw from RJ. And the problem with RJ all season long wasn't because RJ didn't possess any of these skill sets that we're talking about. The problem is that just the commitment to the run game, that was the issue. Because even if I go back and look at last week's Sunday night football game, I mean, RJ Harvey didn't run for a lot of yards against the Washington Commanders. It wasn't due to a lack of effort. It was because there were a lot of penetration that allowed at different times from the offensive line. But we're seeing a very dynamic player come to life. And it's like anything, guys. The more targets you receive, the better you are as a wide receiver. The more touches and carries you receive as a running back, you're able to get into a groove. And we all know this. We've seen this all season long. Typically, if J.K. Dobbins was up, we're not going to see that much of RJ Harvey, because the moment one running back starts to get into a groove, all right, call in the reserves. Now someone else comes in, but because the reserves are very limited, you have to lean heavily on RJ Harvey. And here's what he's showing us, guys. He's showing us that he can run between the tackles. He can run on the edges. Oh, by the way, he can catch the damn ball out of the backfield. Just throw it to him. So we're seeing more dynamic play from RJ Harvey, which is going to be great down the stretch. But I still will say this. The Broncos, in my opinion, still need another heavy running back to help them as they try to make this push to get that number one seed.
Yeah, and we'll obviously see how it shakes out. Again, I think we'll see just how battle-tested this Broncos team is with this little 4-game stretch to end the regular season. But when it comes to RJ Harvey, I mean, 100 all-purpose yards today, as we alluded to, the 75 yards and the touchdown on 17 carries, rushing. But he also adds 6 receptions for 25 yards today. And I was able to catch a little bit of Sean Payton's post-game press conference before we started up this show. And, he's talking about how we drafted the runner, right? Like they looked at him for, his rushing abilities kind of first. And they knew from what they saw his senior year at UCF that he can also be a dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield. So I think you kind of saw that 1-2 punch on display from RJ today. And Cody, to your point that you mentioned earlier, I think the consistency that you saw from RJ Harvey allowed the Broncos to play the clock game a little bit. A lot of the reason actually why they dominated time of possession is because they were able to get some, 4 or 5 yard rushes, some burst plays from RJ Harvey, whether it be rushing or passing, that I think absolutely factored into this win today.
Well, and on top of that, they got some of those productions on first down, right? So now you have a 2nd and favorable, 2nd and 4. Right. I mean, there was a time they had a 2nd and 3. And then it's like your playbook opens up from that standpoint, whereas we used to see, 2nd and 11, 2nd and 8. Then it changes your playbook. It changes how the defense typically plays you. But what I loved about the Broncos run game, and it all got started, as we mentioned, with RJ Harvey, I also loved that early on that first drive, I think it was a 14-play drive, not only did RJ Harvey get involved, but Jalil got involved. Tyler Bedinger got involved. Bo used his legs. Like it was a collective effort. And throughout the game, we saw the surprises of Adam Prentice, who's seemingly picking up a key first down almost every single week. Fullbacks staying alive inside of Sean Payton's offense there. Prentice has been a nice addition. And I also think the other things too, we can look at, rush yards. We can look at, catches and yards out of the backfield as a pass catcher. But I also think these guys are doing a better job in pass protection too. Jaleel McLaughlin included. all three of these backs were coming up big because the Raiders, they were trying to get after Bo. They were trying to send 5 or 6 guys. They were trying to blitz Devin White and Jamal Adams at times. I thought Denver's game plan for Max Crosby was pretty good. He saw some extra attention, but there was a play that RJ Harvey had where he burst off. He ran inside as Max Crosby is crashing it down from the offensive right side. And Max is wrapped up around his legs and RJ's still going. He's churning. So what maybe would have been ideally against most backs for Max Crosby, maybe it's a 2-yard gain. He turned that into a 7-yard gain. Max Crosby got up and was like, crazy. Like I had him. What else am I supposed to do there? I love the extra dynamic and the effort that we were getting from RJ Harvey. And here's the thing with the Broncos running backs that we're also seeing. Ball security. Very, very good. I loved what we saw here from the formula, getting all the backs involved without it necessarily being, hey, it's third down. Okay, Tyler Baday's in. Third down, Jalil's in. We're seeing third down, RJ's in. It's like, all right, now you're diversifying it. You're actually giving Tyler Baday carries. He got some touches in this game. So I think maybe that's something that hopefully Sean will lean on a little bit down the stretch because I felt like the formula was there today.
Yeah, we shall see, with Sean Payton. But I think, Sayre, the way that I look at it too is Cody brings up Adam Prentice, of course, Jaleel McLaughlin. This was a well-rounded offensive game plan today from the Broncos, right? I mean, sometimes we see Sean Payton get a little trigger happy. Nick, you make the analogy time and time again about, when you're a surgeon, they like to cut. The equivalent of Sean Payton like to drop back and pass the ball with Bo Nix. And look, Bo was extremely efficient today in the pocket, but I love the ability to legitimately lean on the run game to factor into the game plan. Obviously not playing from behind, factors into that a lot as well. But I feel like it took some pressure off of Bo Nix and just allowed the Broncos to kind of assert themselves in this game too.
It 100% did. I think the Broncos ran 72 plays in this game or something like that. It was a lot of plays in this game for this Denver Broncos team. And when you're able to run a lot of plays, obviously you can have that balance that we've been talking about, right? It's just, there's no necessarily margin for it when you're in a back and forth game or when your defense can't get off the field. I'll say this. I think that the last 2 games coming out of the bye, I think the offense has bailed the defense out. I do. I just think that obviously they came through with the big play last week, but the defense, your offense goes on a 14-play drive to start off the game, 7-0. That should play directly into your strengths as a defense. And I feel like Vance Joseph, once again, was way too conservative on that opening drive. And so I'm not trying to make it about a us versus them thing, but I do think that when you have 39 minutes time of possession in a game, I believe Jeremy Crawshaw punted the one time in this game. You dominated offensively. Yeah. I know that it doesn't reflect in the final score. This was a dominant effort in terms of what Sean Payton said about game planning early in the week, right? And he talked about, hey, the last time we played the Raiders, it wasn't a good game plan. This was a great game plan. I mean, if your defense is on the field for 39 minutes, imagine if it was flipped. The Broncos, we would be talking about, man, they just could not get off the field. Like, we'd be talking about how badly the Raiders dominated on third downs and situationally early downs. Like, that would be what we're having the discussion about. And I get it that the Broncos are 11-2 and the Raiders aren't. So the standard is different for the 11-2 team. However, and not even grading on a curve, I feel like this is one of the most dominant offensive performances of the week around the NFL. I know the Rams scored more points, but 39 minutes time of possession, 72 plays. Like, that is, you embarrassed the other team, in my opinion.
No, or go ahead, Nick.
No, I mean, that embarrassment was something that we anticipated. We expected that. Just like we watched this team against the Cincinnati Bengals, who didn't have a great defense. We watched this team against the Dallas Cowboys, who once again didn't have a great defense. So for me, I wouldn't say dominating. I would say the Broncos were really efficient at what they were doing, because when you think about the average pass, we're talking maybe 8 to 10 yards. So they were quite efficient, and bold that was as far as moving the ball down the field with short and intermediate passing routes, because when you have that much ball control and you get inside your opponent's red zone that many times, the idea is that you have to score. You just can't kick field goals. And I know field goals are part of the game, but that's why I'm a little hesitant of saying that they dominated, right, an opponent that they should have. They were really efficient and really effective at what they were doing with the game plan, pushing the ball down the field. And yeah, we had a couple of those drops by some of the guys, but we saw a more fluid offense than we've probably seen over the past couple of weeks. And to address the defense, yes, we saw some things with the defense that we are not used to seeing. But this is what happens when you elevate yourself to the standard that the defense has done so far, where we expect, okay, you're going to stop every single thing. And I can tell you that's not going to happen. But they are still dealing with some issues in their secondary and at their linebacker level where they're not on the same page. And if they do that same thing against Jordan Love, who's fine in rhythm with his wide receivers, that could be problematic for the Broncos next week.
I think to kind of put a bow on that, because I agree with both of you. I think in a micro, as Sayre and Cody are alluding to, great game, right? Went out there and did what you're supposed to do. The time of possession was incredible. The dynamic with the offense was nice. Bo Nix was on point. Absolutely, positively, 100%. It's a great win for the Denver Broncos. And I think what Nick's getting at as well, and what I'm also thinking is, I'm looking at this team as a Super Bowl contender, right? And I think they did exactly what they were supposed to do today. Not saying that I would have obviously liked to see them put up more points and this, that, the other, right? But for what it was today, man, that's a 2 thumbs up performance from this Denver Broncos team. I really liked what I saw across the board, Cody.
Yeah, and look, this is a Broncos team that, when they won Super Bowl 50, they didn't win by a blowout, and also that 2013 team that obviously went to Super Bowl 58. I mean, they were putting up points left and right like you couldn't believe, and they got mollywopped by the Seahawks. They were beating some teams by 20 plus points. And so I think at the end of the day, as long as you win, and I'd say it's effective. Like, I think this is a great step for the Broncos offense. And I think that the defense got stops when they needed to. I still think I have some concerns that, just coming out of the bye for the last 2 weeks, that hopefully they can buck the trend. It's going to be a big test this week when they face all those receivers that certainly that Green Bay has, and that pass rush there with Micah Parsons. But I don't feel like I'm as worried about the offense right now, though I don't think, once again, I said the offense, they played well for these last 2 weeks, and there's still so much more room to improve. And they could be getting Ben Powers back as well, as he is ramping things up. No DJ Jones in this game for them. Obviously, Malcolm Roach got the start. I just think, once again, you take care of business against the team you need to take care of business against. You go to 11-2, you control your own destiny, and that way you're not sitting at the end of the season and you're sitting there saying, well, if they would have beat this team, then, maybe they would have been in this position. Don't put yourself in that position. Just win. Whoa. And I didn't mean to say it like that, but just win.
No. The Raiders haven't won in a long time. Al Davis, that's a long time ago with those Raiders teams. So, that is the motto right now for the Denver Broncos. Just win, baby. And that is 11 wins on the year and a 10-game winning streak as the good times roll here for the Denver Broncos. Okay, let's hit a break. When we come back, let's hone in on that defense here. I know Cody's got some mixed thoughts on it. I thought the defense was pretty good, and they kept the 2 biggest playmakers in check for the Las Vegas Raiders today. We'll break that down next right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. All right, you guys. Real quick, let me tell you about our friends over at Gametime. Because the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be absolutely massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Gametime app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back into your hands and makes going to the World Cup much more realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple, guys, to scroll through matchups and compare seat views, pick a game, tap a section, and you have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for the fine print. The seat view feature is an absolute game changer as well. You literally see what the pitch looks like from the seat exactly before you buy it. Prices include fees up front, which I love. No last second surprises at checkout. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy as well to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms they do apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go Gametime. Guys, I'm a huge Italian soccer fan, and assuming they qualify for the World Cup, you best believe I'm going to be using Gametime. And everything I talked about, I can personally endorse. I like to go to Avalanche games. And, every time there's a home game for the Avs, I get the notification of these tickets just opened up, those tickets just opened up. It is by far the best platform to get your tickets for all of the events, sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all that good stuff. So be sure to check out our friends over at Gametime and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. And let them know Locked On Broncos sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Broncos squad show. Aniello Piro, Cody Roark, Nick Ferguson, Sayre Bedinger. Hope everyone in Broncos country is enjoying their victory Sunday night, going into a victory Monday. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button as well. Really helps us out here on the channel and helps boost the squad show up for us as well. At the end of the day, 10 straight wins for this Broncos team, as we've been talking about. They're 11-2 on the year. They win this game 24-17. Spent a lot of time early in the show, some big picture thoughts, and then, of course, some back and forth conversation on the offense today. And look, I agree with you, Cody. I don't think the final score, and Sayre said this as well, is indicative of just how strong of a performance this was from the Broncos wall to wall, right? The Raiders put up 10 points there in the fourth quarter to the Broncos 3. But, it didn't necessarily feel particularly close, at least in my opinion, for a majority of this game. And I think the Denver defense today did a good job of keeping Brock Bowers in check. I know he had a touchdown reception today, but 4 receptions for 46 yards. You'll take that with one of the more dynamic tight ends in the NFL. And then Ashton Jeanty, who I understand has not lived up to the hype necessarily from his draft status. I think that has more to do with the Raiders' offensive line than him as a player. But to that point, you hold him to 10 carries for 30 yards in this game. Cody, talk to me about the defense today.
Yeah, look, Jeanty, he's the Lamborghini in the trailer park. You ever see that meme where it's like got the old trailer park roof cover there? He's in a rough situation there just because of that offensive line. My concern with the Broncos defense, and look, I said at the beginning of the show, they got stops at big times when they needed to in this game, including a 4th and goal where I don't know why Kenny Pickett was trying to throw towards Pat Surtain's way. I think,
ridiculous.
You crazy on that? But they got off to a slow start, and that's been the case for them the last couple of weeks, which has been surprising because it's taken 14 weeks. This week, you let the Raiders march down the field and score a touchdown on their opening drive, which the Broncos haven't allowed an opening drive to an opposing offense all season long until today. 3rd down, they were much better in this game than they were last week against the Commanders, but they were giving up some big chunk plays on 1st down and on 2nd down. And, of course, they did allow, I think, an 18-yard completion on a 4th down that certainly kept a drive alive. And then I just felt like in the 4th quarter, look, you factor in the late field goal. Broncos are keeping everything in front of them. They're playing that prevent look. But then, on that drive before then, they do give up, once again, playing a little conservative at the end. You're giving up points and you're giving up yards and cushion. And, obviously, the Raiders, they scored a touchdown there. So, by nature, it makes it look closer. But, realistically speaking, if they don't do that, the score of this game is, 24-7 at that point. So, meaning after Denver got off to that slow start, they would have essentially held things down. But I'm just concerned about some of the big plays with guys being open across the middle of the field. Certainly, you held Brock Bowers into check. Not on that first drive, though, essentially. You're finding wide receivers crossing the middle of the field. Those guys are finding themselves open. So maybe a little more communication there, but I felt like DJ Jones was certainly missed in this game. They didn't allow any big yards on the ground, but once again, you allow an anchor there, you might get more of an opportunity for Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper to get those one-on-ones to get after the quarterback a little bit. That's just, I'm nitpicking here, but that was my concern here with the Broncos defense. They got off to a slow start, and I just didn't like how they finished.
I think that's fair. The bad penalty, kind of a goofy penalty there on Brandon Jones at the end of the game. They'll learn from that. They'll clean that up. They have been one of the more penalized teams in the NFL this season, not just on defense, but also offense. So I think that's kind of the game within the game that you want to see the Broncos clean up a little bit. But Sayre, what'd you make of the defense today?
I want the turnovers so bad. I'm probably a broken record on these squad shows of talking about the dang turnovers, but man, Zach Allen, I even put him as my player to watch in this game on our last episode of Locked On Broncos last week. I'm like, let's manifest a big game from Zach Allen. The dude almost had a pick 6. It hit him right in the belly, right in the hands there. I was just so bummed for him on that one, but man, how many times are the Broncos going to have the ball hit them in the hands defensively and they not come away with it? I think that's been really tough to see. And maybe something will start against Green Bay. I mean, I know that they've played quarterbacks that have been turnover prone throughout the course of the season, or you play against, Marcus Mariota, the backup, and you expect, hey, maybe you get something there. You got one, but it just doesn't feel, it feels like they're playing uphill when it comes to this turnover department. So that's my only gripe with the defense, other than, hey, you're giving up too many yards after the offense scores. You're giving up too much field position, and I know that's partly the special teams' fault as well, right? I think it was right after the Mims touchdown that you kicked it out of bounds or something like that. And you set up your defense with bad field position right away. So it's not all on the defense, but they came through when it mattered most, when you had the chance to kick a huge field goal, long field goal, get the ball back to the defense, pin them inside their 10, do your work, get the ball to Mims. Like I get that. I love that. I think the defense did come through, but I want those turnovers, man.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think what stands out to me was the goal line stand. Geno Smith had to come out mid-drive there, and then Kenny Pickett goes in. So I understand that's a wrinkle for the Raiders there. But this team, I feel confident in their ability to get after the quarterback and make plays when they need to, right? Like when the back's against the wall and the pressure is the highest and the lights are brightest, I still believe in this defense to go out there and make the play. What do you say, Nick?
Yeah, of course. I definitely believe in this defense. The one thing that we are starting to see are a little fractures in the defense. And what I mean by that is that all season long, we've seen this defense as being Superman. I mean, no bullets, no bombs, nothing else will penetrate this defense. But we're starting to see at times this kind of leaky coverage. Guys are not communicating, wrapping up, keeping a solid edge. So we're seeing this defense do this, and we've seen other defenses in the past do this very thing. But for these defensive guys, they need to make sure they keep it together because this team's fate relies heavily on them. Regardless of what we've seen from the offense over the past 2 weeks, the team getting that number 1 seed and ultimately getting to Levi Stadium in Santa Clara and winning resides solely on the defensive side. So the issues that they're having, for me, seeing it is communication issues. When you see a team line up, whether it's reduced splits or they're spaced out, you need guys to talk, whether zone coverage or man coverage. But you're not seeing a lot of guys actually communicating pre-snap. And that's leading to a lot of these, open spaces, guys sitting down in the zone. But also sometimes you got to tip your cat to the other team because they make a great play. I mean, you gave up the stats about Brock Bowers, right? He didn't have like an amazing day, but he had a decent day, and he's going to catch passes. That is going to happen. The idea is that you have to eliminate the explosive plays. That one cheap touchdown that the Raiders were able to get to kind of bring the score really close to bring their total up to 14. Well, why did that happen? That happened because the guys were not solid with their execution and communication in the back end. You can't afford that to happen against better offensive teams. So hopefully the team goes back to the drawing board and they look at these things. But I'm not really too concerned about the team or defense as a whole. They just need to fix up a couple of issues in their pass coverage.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And again, I go back to when we did that show during the bye week and, we were talking about players and people in the Broncos that have the most pressure on them. And I was the one that threw out Vance Joseph just because I think the way the Broncos are on this 10-game win streak today, complete game for the offense for the most part, right? But their defense has been their strength for this team this season. We need to see that continue to be the case if they want to go out there and play in California for this Super Bowl as well. Cody, another thing that we talked about, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, I think it was last week with Washington, is a bit of rotation with the secondary. Pretty much everybody not named Pat Surtain. You're seeing Riley Moss and Jaquan McMillan, Chris Abrams-Drain, some other guys getting some run. And I thought they made a good note of that on the broadcast because a guy like Jaquan, for example, he's earned the right to play. Right? Like I think Riley Moss, love him or hate him, right? That's a separate conversation for another day. As good or bad as Riley Moss has been, Jaquan has to see the field at some point or another throughout the course of these games, and you saw that today.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously when they're in their nickel personnel, he's going to be the primary nickel. And, of course, there were some times where they put Jade inside their nickel package. I think it was just matchup contingent there. I mean, there's times where they want to put him on Brock Bowers, so to speak. And I like that because they did put Pat Surtain against Trey Tucker several times in this game, Riley Moss on Tyler Lockett. I mean, this was more of a matchup contingent, I think, game plan defensively where they just wanted to try to isolate that. Of course, I think when you look at the receiving components there, I look at it and I say, okay, hey, Brock Bowers is probably their best receiver overall. And there were times where it's like, we're okay with passing him off to Jade, right? Because there's going to be a certain time where Brock is going to move underneath the formation. Pat did play some snaps inside the slot, covering the number 2 guy sometimes today. Yeah. So it's just being able to have flexibility. And when you rotate in guys like Chris Abrams-Drain, Sean Payton told us, early on in the week that it's about keeping those guys because they have been playing, obviously, even when PS2 was out, those guys have been playing. He says, want to keep them in game shape, keep them game ready. I like the idea of that because I think this week coming up against Green Bay is going to be a great example of why you want to have all these corners playing and why you want to have them fresh, because Green Bay has tons of wide receivers to throw to, guys that can stretch the field vertically. So if you feel like from a player matchup standpoint, you have a guy who can match the speed of maybe this guy or the physicality of this guy, you find a way to say, okay, this is how we're going to do it this week. I'm excited to see how it's all going to play out.
No, I'm with you. And on Tuesday's show, I don't think I'm getting too far ahead of myself when I say this. We'll dive into that Green Bay matchup because I think, as we've kind of talked about throughout the course of this show, they checked their boxes today, right? Like this was the game the Broncos were supposed to win. So obviously we'll continue to react to this. We'll get some updates from Sean on Monday as well. But I think Tuesday will be a lot about this gauntlet of a schedule down the stretch and what it means for the Denver Broncos. So let's hit our final break. When we come back, let's wrap up the show.
Game balls?
Gave out some game balls. There were some awesome plays made today from the Denver Broncos and some closing thoughts after a nice win for Denver over the Las Vegas Raiders. All that and more when we come back right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. All right, y'all. Let me tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, because NFL Sundays move fast. Boy, oh boy, this one moved in the blink of an eye. I can't even lie to you guys. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. Just ask the Cincinnati Bengals how that shook out for them today against the Buffalo Bills. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props update as the guys heat up. You can even bet on next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every single snap, every single drive, and every single possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, just visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. If you had the Broncos on the money line today, congratulations. If you had them on the spread, I'm sorry for you. That was a tough backdoor cover there for the Las Vegas Raiders. Hey, the Nuggets just beat the Charlotte Hornets. If you bet the Nuggets on the money line, congratulations to you guys out there as well. A lot of awesome NFL games here today. I like to live bet on FanDuel myself, and if you don't, if you're into that sort of thing, I highly suggest that you check out our friends over at FanDuel and let them know that Locked On Broncos sent you. Okay, well, come on back into your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Aniello Piro, Cody Roark, Sayre, Bedinger, and Nick Ferguson. Hope everyone in Broncos country is enjoying the dub this afternoon/evening over the Las Vegas Raiders. There were some high points today, man. A lot of electricity, like we talked about earlier, man. I mean, this was a Broncos home game. Like, I saw the pictures going around social media, and it's like, that's a lot of orange. That's a lot of orange. That's a lot of orange. And, that's what happens when the Raiders move from Oakland and Los Angeles to go play in Las Vegas. I understand it's a money move and this, that, whatever it might be. I do feel like the rivalry loses a little bit of juice, though, with them being in Vegas, just because it's just not what it used to be with the Raiders and the black hole and this and that. That's all beyond the point. Just some thoughts on that. But let's give out some game balls here today. Sayre, I will start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you got to give a game ball to RJ Harvey, right, for responding to the call. What everybody's asking for, you want to see your second round pick look like a second round pick out there, 100 yards from scrimmage, at a touchdown on the ground, obviously moved the chains, made one of the biggest plays of the game to convert that third down where he almost got taken down by Jamal Adams. So I think RJ Harvey, big time. Cody mentioned it earlier too, but ball security, that's a big deal in a game like this where you cannot turn the ball over and give a team like the Raiders additional opportunities. Your rookie running back showed up in a big way for you, 100 yards from scrimmage, 23 total touches. I think RJ Harvey's my first game ball from this one for the Denver Broncos.
I think that's completely valid. 100 all-purpose yards from RJ between the rushing and the receiving adds a touchdown to it as well. And I think arguably his best game of the season came today against the Raiders. Nick, what are your thoughts for the game ball?
Well, hell, my game ball going to the guy who kind of got everything jump-started, and that was Marvin Mims. I mean, only kind of one target for 5 yards. But when you look at punt return, when you look at kickoff return, he is that damn dude. And it was at a point where the Broncos had only scored 7 points. And then all of a sudden, Marvin Mims burst into the game, and he puts the Broncos on the board. And flipping the field and being able to score points from a special team standpoint, not too many teams can actually do that. And Marvin Mims adds a deadly aspect to the Broncos' offensive game plan that we haven't seen. And I'm like, well, if we can see him do that, whether it's punt return or kickoff return, can we get him some more targets, please? Can we do that? Because if not, Marvin Mims is falling into that category of being a one-trick pony, which I don't think he is.
I'm with you as well. Cody, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's well said there by Nick. I think that there's a narrative out there. Some people have said, Marvin can't run a route tree. Nick, you and I have been at practice. You were obviously, you had an internship there. You saw Marvin every day. The man can run a route tree. Like, the thing is he's just not heavily featured in some of those roles because what has Sean Payton said? He prefers what? Bigger receivers within his set there. My hope here secretly is that Marvin is like Sean is just waiting until the playoffs to really kind of unleash this game plan with Marvin. But why though? Like,
oh, Nick.
And that's the thing. I'm with you, Nick. I do not agree with it. Like, if that is the case, it's like, why are you waiting? Like, yeah, maybe you catch a team off guard or whatnot. Maybe you can use it to your advantage. But the reality is, like, you want to build this up. Like, what does Sean say all the time? Confidence is born from demonstrated ability. We've seen Marvin be able to do that. I agree with you, Nick. I don't think Marvin is a one-trick pony. I've seen him. I watch him in practice. I see some of the stuff they do with him. And in my head, I'm thinking, why don't they do this in games with Marvin? So I'll leave it at that. A lot of Broncos fans don't necessarily get to see that. And like, that's why I always feel like when that narrative comes up, I have to push back on it a little bit. So I agree with you. If I have to give someone a game ball here, I'm going to give one to Bo Nix. Look, I think he was perfectly in command of the offensive huddle here today, 31 of 38, a few drops there, but I just felt like he was decisive. He was quick. He knew where he was going with the football. More importantly, it's like, all right, he sees what the defense is doing. They're trying to take away the deep stuff. So he's like, all right, I'm going to see where I can go. Can I go here at 5 or 6 yards? If I have to throw it to my tailback, I will, and he'll get yards after the catch. And then there were times where he's calculated on a back shoulder throw down the left side to Cortland. He's got a slant to Pat Bryant. Like, Bo his ball placement was exactly where it needed to be. When you can have a 90 passer rating in a game without throwing a single touchdown, I think that means you did a pretty damn good job there. I thought Bo was well in command. He's going to get my game ball.
Nick, do you care to rebuttal with Cody about the Mims stuff?
Well, I think we're both in agreement. I think I don't know anyone in the squad show that would have a difference of opinion because we really haven't seen Marvin Mims in that particular way. And it just takes me back to what happened to Marvin Mims last year when Marvin seemed to be in the doghouse for what reason, I have no idea. And then I always go back to it. We watched him explode in that game against Cincinnati. So it's like, well, why are we seeing a rinse and repeat with Marvin Mims? And why is it that a guy can't be a do-all type of player? Why can't he? When I played, it was Dante Hall, and Dante Hall was known for being phenomenal.
Oh, the joystick
in the kicking game, right? But also you can put him out and you put a couple of plays together to accentuate his skill set and his ability, because not putting him on the field in that particular way for the Kansas City Chiefs, you're taking essential, field position and points off the board. And I can say the same thing for Marvin Mims. You're seeing him display his ability to see in an open field and set up blocks and maximize the production. Why can't you do the same thing? Oh, I'm sorry. We got to do something where we're handing the ball to him in some kind of jet sweep and watch him get either a minus 2 yards or a 2-yard gain. No, we need to see this dude running vertical. That's where you really exploit the defense. But I'm just here for the entertainment, but we haven't seen it thus far. And to Cody's point, I don't know what the hell we're waiting for, because someone said that to me today. Well, Sean is waiting to pull out all his best plays in the playoffs. Why? Do them now so you give the other team something to prepare for, and then you build another set of plays off of that. That's what you're supposed to do. But I digress. Let me get up off my soapbox.
No, I love it. I think everything is well taken, right? And at the end of the day, we'll see how it shakes out in the playoffs, right? Because Can't complain about a 10-game winning streak. Can't complain about an 11-2 record. You know, Bo Nix said as much after the game I saw here today. And Cody, you and I were at practice on Wednesday, I think, when Bo took the podium and kind of said as much about you can't let people tear down a 10-2 record, which of course was their record at the time when he did that press conference. So I agree. And when it comes to the game balls, I don't really have much more to add. I think Bo Nix, Marvin Mims, and RJ Harvey, I think it was a complimentary game across the board. You saw the Broncos today look good in all three phases. And I think that's what you feel good about with this game here today is Bo Nix looked really strong in the pocket as a leader. RJ Harvey got going in the running and the passing game. The defense was good for, 3.5 quarters before some points were given up there at the end. And Marvin Mims with the cherry on top, or rather the kickstart for this game to a certain extent, running it back for a touchdown on the punt return. And I will never complain about a house call, especially from Marvin Mims, who's one of the more dynamic special teams players in the league. So for tonight, again, it is a good 24-17 victory for the Denver Broncos, who improved to 11-2. Before we get out of here, Cody, you're held up 11-2. I thought you were
11-2, baby. Come on now.
I was going to say, any closing thoughts before we get out of here, brother?
Look, hey, it's another week, another chance to, get ready. And the fact that the Broncos, they prepared this week indoors. Obviously, they're playing indoors. That was preparation. I know we had some snowy weather this week.
Yes, we did.
Don't know what the weather forecast is going to look like this week here, but maybe some interesting elements for the Broncos-Packers game, in a game where maybe you might have to run the ball for both teams. So I'm very excited to see how the storylines are going to play out this week. You could be getting some help back. Like I said, I saw DJ Jones on Friday working on the side field. Obviously, we know he didn't play, but I feel like he'll be back this week based on how he was moving. And will we see or find out if Ben Powers will be back into the mix this week as well? I just think, 11-2, and hopefully the Kansas City Chiefs lose tonight. And the Chargers
0-0.
tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be good for the Broncos for sure. Sayre, your closing thoughts.
I'm looking forward to Victory Monday, you guys. I mean, it's gonna be chest day in the gym. The vibes are gonna be high. I'm gonna be, just absolutely cranking it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different mentality that you take when you take a loss on a Sunday and you're like, I gotta go to the gym. And you're like, no, I might load up the bench press today. I might do bicep curls today. I might throw on some of Cody's favorite music just to get me pumped for the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like, just let's go enjoy this, right? I think that's the biggest thing that you take away from games like this is you got to enjoy this process. As much as we talk about, hey, this needs to improve going forward, or this has to be better going forward. Those are all real things, and it's worth talking about because that's what we do. But man, let's all go enjoy it. Go get a Starbucks tomorrow. Somebody go do your own chest day. Go hit some bicep curls.
I like it, Nick.
Well, I agree that it is Victory Monday, and the team should to celebrate because it's been a long time since the team has been able, or the fan base, been able to celebrate a winning streak of this magnitude. So definitely celebrate it, but also keep in the back of the mind what's ahead of this team. And the objective from the very beginning was to win a championship. What does it take to win a championship? It is playing mistake-free football, not having bonehead penalties, and also getting everyone involved. That's the overall goal, and not just kind of resting on the laurels, because I don't want to get to the back end of this thing and we're having a conversation. Hey, the Broncos had a great season. That was a great season, man. I don't want to say that. I want to say the Broncos are on their way to the Super Bowl. And oh, by the way, they got a freaking number 1 seed in the bye. So the idea is this game is based on pressure. So the players have to continue to put the pressure on themselves to just go out there and perform, and knowing as though you treat every single opponent like it is the Super Bowl, because that's what's going to take to get them up to the Super Bowl. But yes, it's Victory Monday. Go grab your latte. Go do your bench press. Work on those biceps, because we're going to need every single player and every single fan to cheer on this team as the Packers come in on Sunday.
I agree. I echo everything that you guys said, man. Enjoy this win. I mean, next week it gets tough, right? But this Broncos team has been extremely tough to beat in their own building, and I'm really, really excited for that matchup. But for now, man, like Bo Nix said earlier, don't let a team tear down a 10-2 record. They're now 11-2. That's 10 straight wins. I mean, you got to live in the moment with this Denver Broncos team right now, and they're taking care of business week after week after week after week. Last week a bit stressful, This week, a little bit easier, but all in all, the Denver Broncos find themselves at 11-2. And again, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, but the win today against the Raiders really helps them out with potential 1-seed implications, given the fact that the Patriots lost to the Raiders in week 1, which feels like a lifetime ago. So they kind of get 2 wins today, right? They win the game, but they also help themselves out long-term as it pertains to the number 1 seed moving forward in this playoffs. So good stuff tonight, fellas. For Cody Roark, for Sayre Bedinger, and Nick Ferguson, I'm Aniello Piro. On your way out the door, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button for us. Really, really helps us out. Enjoy your Victory Sunday as well as your Victory Monday, and we'll talk to you guys on Tuesday afternoon. Have a good one, folks.